One thing I want to give TNA props on this week, and it's something they generally do quite well during their shows, is almost every segment on the show was set up with the use of a backstage segment, and that helps the flow of the show. It helps give the segments a lot more meaning, and I just want to take this time out to say that that's a good thing that TNA are doing. Right? Everything on the show is set up using some kind of backstage segment.
Well, I just want to give quick thanks to that too, because some parts of some shows, a match is just thrown in there without any reasoning. With these backstage segments, it does give reasoning to stuff happening. So, for that aspect, I think it's a good idea.
We open up the show with Hulk Hogan after main eventing the show last week to quite a large pop. He calls out Sting just to see what's up. NJ?
What's up?
He apologizes to Sting and says that they would take care of the Aces and Eights together, not the current roster then, just them two. And this leads to two announcements: the Sting and two others versus Aces and Eights next week, and we get the announcement also after Matt Morgan comes out of Morgan versus Sting as the #1 contendership in the main event because no one's getting any free rides anymore, brother.
The way that Hogan set this up, he made it very serious. He explained how things are like a GM should. GM setting up the match between Sting, who's been against Rude and stuff in the past, World Heavyweight Champions, against Matt Morgan, who wants to be taken seriously. I can see why they're doing it because he thinks it's good for business and it's what fans want to see. But Sting back in this place, I'm not sure.
Yeah, more onto that later. Chris Sabin wants to be world champion, apparently. I find that incredibly laughable. Sabin had an interview before this X Division match where he said he wanted to be the world champion. He also had this whole thing was about Chris Sabin. You had Sonjay Dutt, and Chris Sabin to basically determine who's going to get into the next championship match. And we all knew Chris Sabin was going to win because they hyped up Chris Sabin's return. It's really, really nice to see Chris Sabin back, actually. The match itself was pretty good for 4 minutes. I just have one thing. The use of the X-Cam, using it during referees' counts of all things, it's just, no, sorry, that doesn't work.
I think with Chris Sabin's big, like last week, fans were wanting to see it. A 4-minute match, okay, but I think maybe you should give Sabin more time to give the fans welcome back Sabin. The cam thing that you were saying, I think it's a good idea as long as they don't overdo it, because it seems like if his shoulder's been pinned down, that kind of idea, but just don't overdo it.
Yeah, so this is pretty much all about Chris Sabin. He got the interviews pre-match and also he had the post-match one as well. Pretty much all about putting Chris Sabin over. We also had the news that Suicide was voted as the #1 contendership in the next X Division match. I voted Suicide. I know you voted Suicide. So I'm glad that he got the pick here. Rob Terry versus Robbie E, Joey Ryan, and Jesse Goddard. All you need to know is Rob Terry is a beast. Some may say he's Ryback, and Joey Ryan ate the pin, allowing the Robbie E and Jesse Goddard to get away scot-free.
And that's right, bro.
Yeah, bro. We had a Wet Dream Team promo. Next week's going to be Wet Dream Team versus Bad Influence in a #1 contendership match. I feel that should be for the tag titles, but that's not what TNA think. Yeah, they don't really see the goodness of this feud.
At the same time, they've got a #1 contendership next week. We're going to get our #1 contenders, then build towards the pay-per-view. But yes, I do believe that this should have been for the championship instead of a #1 contendership.
Yeah, so you have a bit of banter between the two teams, which is somewhat entertaining, and then you have Los Stereotypicos coming out to kind of ruin the segment, really. But they announced that James Storm is going to be the special referee in the match next week. A bit directionless right now. He's kind of involved with AJ. Now he's this special guest referee, and yeah.
James Storm, I could throw in this match to make sense of how he was involved with the Fortune 4 and all that stuff. But at the same time, James Storm's in a feud with AJ, which I'm still looking forward to seeing grow. So as long as they stick more to that than just being wrapped up in this.
But at least they set up the #1 contendership match next week, which hopefully give us some build going against Slammiversary, which TNA really need to kick the wheels on right now. We had Kurt Angle's sort of open challenge thing that he did. They picked D'Lo Brown to go up against Kurt Angle. And the match was later changed to an I Quit match. We found out why after the match, but I don't really see why was D'Lo Brown put in this spot? He hasn't wrestled in years.
Going into the match, you do question it, but I guess it gives D'Lo a reason to be in the Ace and Eights. Now he's had a wrestling match. But yes, it was more the after match that made the match make sense.
Kind of got a great reaction from his hometown, actually. And it wasn't a bad match. It's just that I really had no interest in seeing Kurt Angle go against D'Lo Brown. It's just just the way things pan out. And D'Lo Brown ends up humiliatingly saying, "I quit." And please, the way they were doing this, please let this be the last we see of D'Lo Brown and the Aces and Eights,
Because
please.
that's the thing, when we got to a backstage segment with the Ace and Eights and how Anderson was saying how bad D'Lo was, Buddy Ray was saying I'm going to sort him out next week. And it seems like they're teasing with taking up the bad, even though they never walk alone. Take up the bad and keep to the good. I don't see how Garrett counts as good, but that's
Hey, I don't see
AJ's
how
one
half of those guys count as good, but there we go. Obviously, TNA see different. After the break, though, after Angle gets the victory, he calls out AJ Styles to the ring. And Angle wants to know basically what side AJ is on. That's pretty much the big question with AJ Styles, and one of the reasons why this storyline is so compelling. And it looks to me like Kurt Angle wanted him to be the third guy in the six-man tag next week with Sting and himself. And they also revealed on the show that Bully Ray, D1, and Anderson would be taking part in that match next week. So they did some decent hype for that. The big question being, will AJ Styles actually take part in that match, and which side will he be on, etc.?
Well, that's the thing, because we had Sting talking to Angle backstage before the match. Maybe it was Sting saying, try and convince AJ to be a part of us, blah, blah, blah. So if AJ, I think they're going to try and spread it out for a bit longer, because Slammiversary is 5 weeks away.
Yeah.
So I think maybe he's not going to be a part of this match, or maybe he will, but just not wrestle. I'm interested in seeing how they continue this storyline before AJ makes his final decision.
Gail Kim and Tara versus Mickie James and Taryn Terrell, one of those like knockout tag matches which are done just to sort of waste a bit of time, I guess. You had Taryn Terrell getting the roll-up pin on Tara. No surprise, really. Taryn Terrell is the new knockout they're trying to put over. The post-match where Gail Kim injures Taryn Terrell after the match. Guess that's continuing on that feud now.
I love how Terrell, when she wins matches, it's being a roll-up.
All the time.
Yeah.
Reminds you of Kelly Kelly, doesn't it?
Quite much.
A little bit. And in our main event of the evening, we had Matt Morgan versus Sting as announced in the opening segment for the number one contendership. I must admit, I did like the backstage segment where Bully Ray said he doesn't give a shit who wins this match. You'd face Matt Morgan and he'd face Sting as well. At least that shows that he's not a usual, typical cowardly heel.
That's what we need. We need like the Bobby Roode, in a way, when the strong heel that we can get behind, the heel that you shouldn't mess with. Bully Ray's definitely got it, and this is what I want to see from a Bully Ray champion.
Yeah, the match itself. You had Matt Morgan dominating most of this match. It seemed like Sting may have had a little concussion or something off one of the choke slams, which kind of slowed him down a little bit. It looked like he was gassing out a little bit, but you kind of expect that from Sting. Sting manages to kick out of the carbon footprints, even though Sting he could barely lock on the Scorpion Deathlock, but kind of wins anyway after doing it again after Morgan passed out. At least Morgan here didn't do a clean job. I just don't see the point in making Sting the number one contender. I mean,
this goes back to my comment earlier. Sting, yes, he was against Rude and stuff, so you do think him being in a match is meant to be a draw, big main event match. But him beating Matt Morgan through a finish that doesn't look like it was done right, or a maneuver that could beat Matt Morgan anymore. And I didn't really buy this. It was just TNA's way of putting Sting into a place where I don't think he should be, even if it is a drawing match.
So it's going to be Sting versus Bully Ray at Slammiversary now, and I don't know. What is TNA's obsession with the old guys? I mean, you have Sting and Hogan take out the Aces and Eights last week, and now it's Sting versus Bully Ray. And, as soon as this match set up, you kind of knew it was going to be Sting. I mean, let's face it. So Sting wins the match. I guess this is a dry draw. I understand why TNA do it. I mean, you're trying to get nostalgia from older fans, but come on, it's 2013, not 1998 anymore. You have Bully Ray, D1, and Anderson come out to stare down Sting. I guess that's also to kind of tease that match and the six-man tag match next week as well. So
they did a good job with teasers, and I look at this and think, Bully Ray and Sting, as long as they don't overdo it, do it too much like they did with Rude and Sting.
Yeah, what are your quick overall thoughts on this show? I personally thought this was a solid show. I liked how they built up to everything with the backstage segments, like I said earlier. They're kickstarting the build now to Slammiversary, which was desperately needed on this show. Next week's show looks pretty good as well with that Ace and Eight six-man tag, and also the number one contendership, which is a match we wanted to see for quite some time now, which we thought would be at Slammiversary. I'd say solid show, which is still doing its job at what it needed to do in hyping up next week and starting to Slammiversary.
Apart from the bro match and probably the knockout, I think this show was quite decent. It gave us build, got me interested next week. The main event, yes, it's questionable how fans are going to see it, but overall, pretty decent show.
Indeed, and we need to also end this on a note, actually. Terminator NJ, yeah, we see you over there. What's your answer? You know, he did lay down the challenge. You need to answer. I guess he's going to pull an AJ Styles on us then.